Welcome.
All right.
Yes.
Everybody. Oh, okay.
We don't have Nick here. Sinead?
Yes, I was just going to introduce his show for him.
We should have communicated that because I didn't know if you were aware. So it just was awkward. We both tried to do it, and I should just let you take it away. But yeah, Nick dropped off the call for some reason, maybe some technical issue right before the intro was going to be over here. So try to do the best we can. And we'll get him on as soon as possible. Not sure what happened. This is the first time he has used the new system. I think it's pretty good. Other hosts have had some good luck with it, so hopefully it'll work out for him. Sinead, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I'm doing all right. I was hoping to get into some of this, shooting stuff that apparently took place today in Fort Lauderdale. It's close to home for us. And Nick is always the go-to guy for these psyops, so I think it's no coincidence that he seemingly got booted off as soon as the show started.
Yeah,
kind of weird.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think, an interesting show once he does get on, because I know he's been paying good attention to this one. But even just taking a cursory glance at all of this, there are so many red flags and so many inconsistencies that I would have to think that even the layman would have to at least scratch his head at a few of the things that he's seeing and hearing.
Yes, definitely. I'm just sorry, I saw something pop up on the chat here, and I thought maybe it was Nick, but it appears someone else might be trying to join the call.
Conference unlocked.
There you go. Of course, I had locked it because everybody was in, and it should have given me the notice that somebody was trying to join. Yeah, in any event, hopefully Nick will try to call back in here. So let's not get too much into the events, but some of the things that just fly right at you. Steve Israel being the sheriff.
Or Scott.
Oh, yes, thank you. Scott Israel.
Scotty.
There's a Steve Israel. I think he's in the Congress, or at least he was. They're so creative, aren't they, with their names?
It's ridiculous. I mean, they have 6 different pictures of this guy floating around, and apparently I saw a tweet from a news station saying the shooter said, "I'm not a Jew, I'm not a Jew."
Yeah.
As he shot at people. I mean, it would make sense for the narrative if he was targeting someone and they said, "I'm not a Jew." But okay, so that was, a red flag. Also, the multiple pictures, there are reports of him with a military ID. Then there's the airlines saying that he wasn't actually on any of the flights. And to me, and Robert Raybould just tweeted this out and it sums it up, I think this is going to be used, obviously, for a bunch of different things, but to probably crack down on people carrying or transporting their firearms via the, plane's baggage carrier underneath.
Yeah, and it does seem to have gotten the conversation off of torturing of the white teen. And I think you might be getting into that tonight. Who knows? But it was definitely something that a lot of people in the media did not seem to want to cover appropriately. It doesn't fit within their narrative that they're usually putting forth. They usually don't even cover these crimes. But I'm just guessing because we don't watch TV, but it seems like nobody's talking about that anymore today because of this supposed shooting. I wanted to clarify here. Yes, Steve Israel, congressman representing the 3rd District of New York. So it was Sheriff Scott Israel and this shooter who's supposedly a white Hispanic yelling again and again that he's not a Jew. Because here's a theory. Maybe somebody said, hey man, are you a Jew? You look Jewish. And he just flipped out. No, I'm not a goddamn Jew. And he started shooting people. And he's just, no, I'm just kidding there. That's the most ludicrous thing. Just everything about this stinks. But you have to wonder why they're coming out with this, I'm not a Jew narrative. That's just very, very odd that I haven't seen something like this before.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand their justification for coming up with that part of the narrative. We were speculating earlier that it just developed on the fly because they had to cover, for something else. But just looking at some of these pictures of the supposed SWAT team, that's, going in to save the day. They have these huge grins on their faces. They're like, they're all excited. And usually when, a SWAT team is doing their job or, swatting an area, whatever you call it, they're not going to be laughing about it. They're probably focused on, whatever needs to be done.
Something I noticed about that, one of the images supposedly of them taking this guy out, escorting him out, is they had him backwards. They were lugging him around and he was facing backwards. I don't think I've seen that before, to be honest. Have you, when they lead somebody? I'm thinking about the fake staged Glenn Miller photograph where one of the policemen has a hand in a pocket. They've already got the police line up and they're walking him away. He's facing forward. It's like they didn't want to get the faces of the two SWAT team guys in the photographs fully, so that they wouldn't be identified. I don't know, but they turned him right there for the camera. Very, very odd. A lot of these different things that we're seeing. Of course, there is also the whole element of what was the guy's? I'm not prepared for this. What was the guy's name? Ari Fleischman, the White House, the former White House press secretary. Let me get the former White House press secretary was Ari Fleischer, and he was there on the scene. It seems he was the first one to report anything because he just happened to be there. Just kind of like how you have what's her name? Inat Wolf's husband there, the first guy to own an iPad.
Yeah.
What's his name? Gutjahr.
Gutjahr?
Yeah, Gutjahr. He was the first person to own an iPad as well, by the way. Isn't that just a funny coincidence? And then he's there at the one shooting at the bus. The big truck thing in Nice where Bono was also just there, and then he's also over there. And so is his daughter for the shooting in Berlin. There's just so much. This is overload. Right now it's overload.
It is overload.
It is overload.
And I think that's definitely the purpose. I mean, there's so many different layers to their agenda, but definitely, whenever these things go on, I just look at what are they distracting from? And I think, you brought up a good point with the kidnapping of this boy. And now I'm not saying that this is fake. I'm just saying that the timing is interesting because, and now it could have been fake. I don't know. I haven't even watched the thing. Honestly, I don't want to, but I'm speculating because of Trump's tweet to Rahm Emanuel that you were sharing with us there, saying that, the federal government is going to need to intervene in Chicago because, well, things are just getting out of control. And I think, this event plays right into that agenda perfectly for them, whether they created it or not.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that real violence wasn't committed to have this be a synthetic event. Somebody could have paid these teens, and that's why they were so giddy. Is like, hey, we'll take care of all the legal fees, or we got you covered, and you'll be fabulously rich. I have heard some people talking about reasons why this looks like it might be theatrics, and one of those pieces, and I'm sure it upset some people just even having this called into question, one of those pieces was up in the Tribune, and it mentioned how when a head or a forehead is cut open, a lot of blood comes out, even if it's a small cut. So there are some things that people are looking into. At this point, I don't really want to dedicate too many resources into any of these investigations when, especially, anti-white violence happens all of the time, and so this is just seemingly another example of it. So you just have to kind of wonder why they're talking about it. Is it because it has the whole Trump element to it as well? It seems like a lot of these events, especially since San Bernardino, maybe a few of them beforehand, where you have the Islamic terrorist, and of course the Orlando Holocaust. It seems like a lot of them have been used to set up a Trump victory, and now also to justify his coming clampdown.
Right, definitely. And it's interesting that they said this child or this teen had, with special needs. I don't know the level of functioning, but I know special needs teenagers have no idea what politics are or any concern with, who the president is. I don't know how they knew this kid was a Trump supporter. Maybe, did he have a Trump shirt on? I didn't see, but,
No,
that part of the story didn't add up. And also, there's this whole element of fake news, to use their term, that's coming in, people on the alt-right or just people picking up this story and spreading it are saying, oh, he was injected with street heroin. And I don't believe that's on the film. So it seems like they're kind of just creating this story that people can then say, look, it's all fake, by throwing out disinformation. And I believe they are labeling this one a hate crime, which is interesting because usually they never do. And the media never really reports these things. They usually just cover them up completely.
Apparently it's only a hate crime because he's mentally handicapped.
Okay, well, that plays into an agenda as well, where it's basically showing people that the only reason this is bad is because he was retarded.
Well, and okay, even if everything about this was 100% organic, there wasn't a hidden hand that was having these teens do this, or with the possibility also of paying for a complete performance, which I wouldn't put past them. Okay, I know that this kind of violence happens all the time, and it's great that people are finally taking a look at it. But we have to understand that there could be a race war angle here that we're not seeing, that we don't know all of our enemies' moves, and even though something runs counter to their narrative, it doesn't mean that they're not just acting on the other side, agitating, instigating.
Right. I mean, the fact that they called those two Dindus, Black Lives Matter, I highly doubt they were Black Lives Matter. They're just two, thuglets.
Yeah, Trump.
That's just what they do. You don't have to really, give them $50 and tell them that they're not going to go to jail, and they'll go do that to a random white boy.
Yeah, interesting. Autistic Trump supporter versus Black Lives Matter. The synthetic controlled opposition dialectic there. I don't mean to demean this young man. You're calling him an autistic Trump supporter, but you get where I'm going. Is how they've framed this all. You have the Trump aspect, which I agree. I don't know exactly how this gets thrown in there. Maybe they just asked him, "Hey, you a white boy? You like Trump?" And oh yeah, I like Trump. Even though he's not political,
he's not active. But is that in the video? Can we verify that?
Well,
I haven't watched it.
So I didn't know I'd be coming on talking about this tonight. I'm not prepared. I don't know exactly where that comes from. But one thing that should be noted as well is how, as I said, it doesn't necessarily even matter to what level this might be synthetic or organic. It's going to be used regardless by many different factions. And we see all of the shills jumping on it, InfoWars, Cernovich, and the rest, Breitbart. So there's also the element here of the mentally handicapped need to be tracked and traced. Remember how...
Well, they're already doing that.
Yes, but remember how the government just recently passed through this bill that is very vague and talks about tracking and tracing via RFID all these mentally handicapped people. And they don't define that. It's just people with mental health issues, essentially. It could be veterans. It could be anybody that they don't like. They deem hate. Yes. Eventually, essentially, it is us. Yes. So that... Go ahead.
Sorry, there's a little delay with the mic, but someone just brought up a really good point in the chat room saying that, how do we even know that this kid had autism? His mouth was taped shut. I mean, I guess maybe, it was found out later, but we don't really know that.
Well, we're given testimony by people that knew him, that the whole backstory of this guy, once he's identified, comes out. And I don't know. Do we know much about these troubled youths? What I find interesting as well is the mainstream over-the-top anti-white bias. Don Lemon saying, the CNN anchor saying, I don't think these people are evil, because somebody on the show was calling them evil. I don't think they're evil. That they just weren't home trained. Kind of like how dogs aren't house trained. I think he even said this. They didn't have good home training. So he was just calling them essentially feral dogs, but they're not evil. And you can only imagine if the tables had been reversed and some white boys and white girls had tortured a mentally handicapped black person. Oh, that would be
Definitely.
the most evil thing that's ever existed. Nobody would say they didn't have good house training.
Right. And also just looking at kind of the neuro-linguistic program they're running with this narrative, right? This boy who seemingly looks like a normal teenage, young man, he doesn't look like he has Down syndrome. He's not fat. He's not, like repulsive. He looks like a young teenage guy. And, then they say, oh, Trump supporter. Every single, thing that's been happening to whites recently, whether it be staged or not, they're all called Trump supporters. So it's kind of putting that anchor into people's heads that Trump supporter, everyone just thinks every white person is a Trump supporter. So therefore, most white people are just like retards. And most Trump supporters are autistic, and that's actually kind of true. But it implants that neurolinguistic program of white equals retarded,
and the low IQ lefties.
Yes.
We love that term, the low IQ lefties, or even just let's say the hood rats. Just people that might listen to some of this rhetoric coming from Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and all the talking heads on CNN, MSNBC, who are just spewing their anti-white hatred. These people are going to be convinced because of all this, because of all the deplorable talk, the alt-right insanity. They're going to be convinced that all Trump supporters, which is a large percent of America, and especially white America, that they're essentially these hateful bigots, these terrorists, these racial supremacists, these awful people. They're going to think that anybody that is out there supporting the current president is essentially the most evil thing in the world. That's the way that they have painted this in this extremely divisive Hegelian dialectic here.
Yes, absolutely. And it just seems like, the perfect kind of event to justify more crackdown and militarization and Israelification, as Russell from the New Nationalist put in his article, how our police are being trained by Israelis to handle us like we are Palestinians.
Yes.
So, these events, again, whether they're real or they were staged or they were half staged, they're being used for a very specific purpose, and that's to further crack down and take away our weapons here in the United States, and also just a psychological operation, racial tensions, getting us at each other's throats while the Jews, laugh all the way to the bank and, just rub their hands together as we all kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Or as the whites get killed off, basically. Let's be honest. We're up against like the whole world, it seems, sometimes.
I don't know. Maybe these powerful Jews have decided that things have started to turn in Whitey's favor in terms of racial awakening and consciousness. And so while some years ago almost all Jews were behind white genocide, now, of course, some of them have jumped over and tried to worm their way into our side, the reactionary Jews of the world. And also, just the people that are aligned with Alex Jones, let's say. And now you've got this coalescence of pro-white, right-wing activism and just talk radio and alt media and everything, along with the Zionists. It's a very interesting move that they've played here. And I think that they've had this one in the cards for a while. That's why they always had those connections there. Rabbi Shilla at Amran and a bunch of other Jews, that they're trying to perhaps lead. Well, maybe they're leading the white resistance into the ground, or they're also potentially guarding against a white backlash or a white lash if whites do successfully turn the tides. I think they're definitely doing that now. Especially the young reactionary Jew generation. I think they're scared. Yeah. And they should very well be scared. They should start swimming for Mother Israel real soon. But what they're not doing, which is what they should be doing, is apologizing.
Yeah.
They're not.
Yeah, like now's the time to do it, guys.
They're not they're kind of just doubling down in some essence. They're just trying to say, well, you know what? Now that you're racially awake, now you understand what we've been dealing with these damn Muslims, these Muztogs.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, these third world garbage trying to invade our first world Israel. I mean, we're just Jews, so we're smarter, so we build a better country. They want to come in and take it. And some of these people in America and elsewhere, I guess they kind of buy into this. Say, yeah, I agree. Now, Israel, it's not built by Jews. They couldn't sustain that land whatsoever if it wasn't for the massive cash cow that is the Gentile nations, the goyim of the world. They're milking us dry.
No, you don't understand. Reactionary Jew told me that, we're not technically giving them billions of dollars every day. They're buying our guns. So it's like a fair trade.
Thanks, Jews. Thank you so much.
Yeah, they're buying our guns.
Who owns those defense industries, so-called defense, right?
Mexicans. Mexicans.
Oh, the Mexicans own all of those corporations. That's right. They're the ones profiting off of war.
Sí, señor.
No, but they employ some of the goyim in the factories. The Lockheed Martin, processes. Yeah, no, we use some goyim in there.
Yeah, for the testing, for the radiation testing, we blast the goyim, see what happens.
I can't stand people that essentially shill for the military-industrial complex. And that's what we're seeing now, though. Paul Joseph Watsons and the Alex Joneses. And this is the solution. Come on, guys. We know the problem, reaction, solution. So we already see what the problem is. They've flooded our countries with all sorts of, not only people, but sick ideologies. It's completely toxic. They've created this problem. We have reacted. And sometimes I have to look back and think, have I reacted the way that they want me to? You know what I mean? Have I played right into their hands? Because if it wasn't for them being so extreme on the other side, would I have ever stepped up and done things in a certain way, said certain things? I'm not taking back anything I've said or saying that that I'm wrong on anything, but these people are master game players here. They know how to play these games, and they have a great deal of intelligence. So what I'm getting at is essentially what I'm seeing is that they're crafting a certain narrative, and we know it's just getting more extreme on each side, the rhetoric, as everything is getting ramped up. And so the reaction is what brings in the solution. But if we don't get involved in this process, if we don't start seeing through their little game, the solution is not going to be the final solution you want. The solution that's going to be offered is going to be very, very kosher. And it's going to be that kosher clampdown. It's in the works. It's why all these private prison industries and the pharmaceutical industries, they saw a massive spike after Trump was elected because they know what this fasci America will look like. It will be great for them, horrible for us. And this is not something that should be celebrated. This is very, very scary, especially when you see the Goldman Sachs element. Now 4 Goldman guys on board with the Trump administration. This is sick. And you look at the Goldman stocks after Trump was elected and after certain key positions were filled, going through the roof. It is good times for Goldman. Good year for Goldman. Good year for Goldman here. Definitely.
But just give it time, okay? He just got in the office. These people have connections to Putin and stuff.
Oh,
you know?
Well, I mean, if he's allied with Putin, he can't be bad.
Exactly.
He's stopping war.
They were they're good with money.
Yeah.
It's New York. That's seriously what people will say. All these people that we told them the whole entire time now, that you're David Dukes and you're all, you're shills. I haven't listened to Jeff Rentz. I don't know if he's actually, Trump's not our guy. But now they're all saying, oh, can you believe it? He just said that Israel is our ally. I am just so shocked. It's like he was saying that during his whole campaign, during, his speech at AIPAC. he let everybody know, and he let everybody know he supported Israel 1,000%. And now they're like, can you believe he supports Israel? I just didn't see it coming.
I don't check out the Daily Stormer almost ever. I don't even like to mention them much. But I did want to point out that I saw, maybe somebody had tweeted it, and I took a look. I saw that Anglin, Andre, is now saying that Donald Trump is just setting Israel up. Like, coming up with this conspiracy theory where actually Trump isn't even pro-Israel. He is going to probably just show them. It's so stupid that people actually believe this, that they take it seriously. It's like parody and reality have become one, and these people are knowingly engaging in basically these parody religions where they actually call Trump the God Emperor, and they praise Kek, praise Allah, basically. And they all think it's just a big joke, for the lulz. But no, they're engaging in something that's been set up for them. It's a huge trap. And, they have them basically worshiping, chaos and all these things. And, unknowingly or knowingly and not caring, becoming initiated into the enemy's, thinking, basically. Yeah. I wonder what happened to Nick here, because it's been
I know.
a half hour.
I messaged him on Twitter. I haven't heard it.
Welcome back. This is Circus Maximus, and I'm Kyle Hunt filling in here for Nick Spiro, and I've got Sinead here with me, and we're talking about a number of important, pertinent topics, and essentially the gist of where we were going beforehand was that because white people have woken up, have started to really resist, have seen the Jewish hand orchestrating white genocide, pulling the strings behind the curtain, they are now, the Jews, world Jewry is now having a little faction out there that's saying, oh, come on, guys, we are your greatest ally. Not all Jews think alike. There are plenty of Jews like me and this Jew over there and that Jew who really sympathize with your cause. And we are your greatest friend, your greatest ally in this struggle. Hey, let us help you. You need some cash. Maybe it's just chump change to us. Just let's get on the same page. And you have then what happens as a result of this, Alex Jones kvetching about Bibi Netanyahu getting investigated and praying for Israel. This was one of the most despicable things I've ever seen, Sinead.
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I mean, Alex Jones has had his share of hilarious moments where he fake cries, just like Glenn Beck. I mean, he's another fake crier. But Alex Jones really took the cake with the Christian Zionist prayer for Israel to watch, God to watch over Israel. And that was just so funny. I'm going to be throwing that in my kosher right compilation that I'm throwing together, because we've got a major kosher right problem. I mean, Tommy Robinson, this guy, and all these freaking Jew loving
his picture on the Israeli tank holding that gun is just
with his cut off shorts.
It's just so pathetic. He looks so unathletic and just disgusting, but he looked right in place there.
Yeah, well, I mean, the IDF soldiers are little babies. I mean, there are so many pictures and video of them crying, all like weeping together. They're cowards. They pick on old women.
Is that not the essence of Jewry right now and for quite some time, where all they do is just wail and whine? Oh, the Holocaust! Oh, we're going to wail at the Western Wall. Oh, I mean the Wailing Wall. Because it's not Roman. It's Jewish. All of this stuff, everything, and basically all of civilization, especially Western civilization, it's Jewish at essence. Judeo-Christian. We are at the foundations of your very spirituality. It's all about whining and crying recently about all their losses, but that's for the Goyim. With each other, they celebrate their victories, their genocides. That's what their holidays are. So it's that statement about the Jew cries out in pain as he strikes you is so very accurate. That is the essence of the way that they wage war, through deception, where they're crying when they are the ones who are actually the victimizers.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I mean, just how funny is it that they stole the Wailing Wall? They couldn't even make a wall, and they stole that. It's just so pathetic. They can't create anything.
Well,
and just look at how psychotic their behavior is. They go and stand at a wall and rock back and forth, and then they're going to put on a white coat and sit there and tell me that I have a mental illness.
Well, I just want, or that not liking those people who are rocking back and forth in the wall and covered in plastic in the airplane, rocking back and forth. That if you don't like them, you have a mental illness. Yes, it's
right.
Just,
if I don't like baby boys having their foreskin cut off and filleted, that's just me being crazy.
You're intolerant. You're a bigot.
Yes, I am. I'm so sorry.
So, speaking of crying out in pain as he strikes, Jimmy Alefantis was doing this so very well, where he was just playing the big victim. Oh, these bullies, these internet bullies are just picking on this little pizza shop owner over here. I didn't do nothing, and now they're trying to harass this person and that. I'm just a poor little pizza shop owner. The 49th most influential man in D.C. as ranked by GQ, who gets invited to the White House time and again for special occasions, who had this very deep relationship with Media Matters' David Brock and Correct the Record, and has all of these political connections, of course, to Obama, Hillary, and all the rest. Oh, he's just a poor little pizza shop owner. And they don't show all of the pictures that were put out by his own Instagram when he's being interviewed, and none of the media has investigated whatsoever. Now, I bring this up because we had earlier in the day discussed this report, which I saw coming from Ole Damegard. He was the one who put it out, and I think Nick was the person I saw that post this. But Ole had linked to this guy's video. He's one of these Pizzagate researchers, and he even sells Pizzagate-related material, gear, just stupid T-shirts. So he's making some money just selling T-shirts off of this. But it looks like he has done some decent work. But he came out with this video saying that Jimmy Alefantis had threatened to kill him and everybody he knows. And he posted some screenshots of supposedly a conversation he was having with Jimmy, Mr. Jimmy Comet there. And he didn't record the phone conversation that they had. Oops. So we're just supposed to take his word for this and not be able to independently verify at all that Jimmy Alefantis really was threatening him. So I just want to get your thoughts on this little case here.
Yeah, it seemed like this could have been, a psychological operation in a way, or, as I've talked about before, kind of the ellipse, giving truth, but then, having something else slipped in there as well, another agenda or command. So, first of all, this guy never recorded the conversation with Alefantis, so there's no proof that he actually spoke with him. We see the screenshots, but I've had people pretend to be other people online and have a conversation. It doesn't mean it's actually them. So, this guy says then, I give up with all this research. I'm going to stop because he's threatening my family. And, I'm thinking, if you're really scared, why would you go and make a video where all these people are going to see that James Alefantis threatened your life? Don't you think that would, piss him off even more if you were really afraid for your life right now? And then in the conversations, Alefantis admits he's like, yeah, all of it is true, except I don't like children or something. And I just thought, I don't know. This all seems kind of weird. But basically, the conclusion this guy came to was nobody go to Pegasus Museum because Pegasus Museum is now being implicated in all of this child trafficking. Nobody go there. Don't do anything. Please, everybody stop looking into this. And basically, I think it was to induce paralysis in people, where they're frozen in fear, like, we can't do anything about this. We're trapped. There's nothing that's going to happen. And then just they kind of accept it and grow numb.
Yeah. I think that's a good point here. They rely on us being afraid of them. that is where
Yes.
a lot of their power comes from.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I understand that. I mean, they are, the scariness is the gang mentality that they have. You know what I mean? Like they're a pack of psychopaths and they all look out for each other. You know, they're in the club.
Yes.
So that's the scary part, like the organizational power and, secrecy is, what freaks people out. But I think it's safest in the light, like in the spotlight in a way. I mean, they've offed bigger people than us, so I don't know. I don't see any other choice at this point in time. Like I could not go day in, day out without speaking my mind about these things or doing everything in my power to get the message out there, because I would feel like I might as well just die. I mean, what's the point? I'm slowly dying if I'm not doing anything to change our fate at this point. And our fate right now is not a good one. So we need to change the direction of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We can't just try to ascend the different pyramids that are nested within pyramids of this structure. That is not the way forward. We shouldn't try to get ourselves voted up to a higher level in the pyramid or join the club. Let's infiltrate it from within. No, I don't see that's the way.
No, that's out Jewing the Jew, and that you don't need to. We're the superior beings here. We've just been put into a slumber, and we've been raised. We are all victims of MK Ultra or whatever you want to call it. I mean, we grew up with all these subliminal messages and images and mind tricks and lies and emotional traumatic stuff, that they teach us in school, and all this mind messing and dirtying. So, once we have that removed, we can tap into our potential.
I wanted to just propose something here. We don't like the term brainwashing because it implies cleaning something. I think dirt's getting a bad reputation, Sinead. Because
that's a good point.
Dirt, allows things to grow. Dirt's essential. I like dirt. Dirt is actually a whole lot cleaner than these people, and a lot cleaner than the way that they've made our minds. Really quickly, going back to Pizzagate, I want to get your thoughts on the theory that I have that whilst it might be a real revelation here, it definitely does seem to be a limited hangout, especially with some of these gatekeepers who have assumed the positions of the main people in this Pizzagate thing, and even just the name Pizzagate. Who exactly came up with that? But like David Seaman, of course, would be a good example of a Zionist gatekeeper, and then we have. Also, just this idea that it could have been put out by somebody like Roger Stone in order to get Trump elected, to turn the conversation away from Trump's very real connections to Jeffrey Epstein and a whole lot of other sordid things, and also to push this agenda that we need to more heavily censor the internet. So I think when you see some of the connections that are to Jews, to Israelis, to Alex Jones, and a lot of the people who are covering Pizzagate, it starts to maybe make sense that perhaps the Israeli, the Mossad, let's say, working with the FSB or the GRU, that they essentially released this to damn the Democrat Party and to raise up the Republican Likudnik Donald Trump, and that the fallout we've seen from this can be seen in Obama and his snubbing of Israel, right, at the UN, and also the expelling of the Russian ambassadors. Do you think that this holds any water, that perhaps that they actually are telling the truth, that the Russians and possibly also the Israelis are the ones who were behind this supposed hacking and these revelations, including Pizzagate?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, it definitely plays into their narrative. I mean, they want to look like the good guys right now. Trump is the guy that's going to come in and drain the swamp, and Hillary has been created in, her media persona has been that of a wicked witch for years. I mean, everybody hates her. And I think that wasn't just because she's a disgusting yenta. It was that was programmed, like she was the evil cackling witch. and Trump, I mean, just look at how they set it up during the elections, when they were running during their campaign, how they, at the debates, they had Trump circling her, like he's going to get that evil satanic witch, So I think I know it's a limited hangout. Now with the Russians actually, or the Israelis being responsible for this, that's definitely possible. And again, it's that ellipse, for lack of a better term, that really screws with our minds, because if there's a little bit of truth mixed in with disinfo, we usually just kind of brush it aside. But yeah, that's definitely an interesting perspective for sure. But yeah, most people researching this Pizzagate thing do not want to even think for a second that their God Emperor would ever do such things. I mean, he would never do such things, and now he's not even going to pursue throwing Hillary away in prison because, well, she's a good lady after all. So lies. They don't want to
deal with blood libel, as they call it, which is Jewish ritual murder. They don't want to deal with that. Oh, that's a fiction. But Pizzagate is very real. But Jewish blood libel. No, they were just kicked out of those 109 places or 109 times because anti-Semitism. Because these Europeans are just so awful and hateful and bigoted. That's got to be the reason. It wasn't because they were actually doing the things that they've been accused of doing. And also they don't want to deal with the trafficking that goes on in Israel. Sex slavery, very, very real. Underage sex slavery, very real. Just take a look at Israel. It's pretty much, this is known throughout the world. They've been reprimanded time and again for, they don't have a very good status in the world. I haven't done a show on this in a while, but it's acknowledged that they have a problem with human trafficking in Israel. We know all about the organ trafficking as
Oregon.
well. Yeah.
I mean, there's some weird stuff that I was talking to Charlotte in Denmark today about, you've heard of this kuru, right? The cannibal disease that people get.
Yes.
Well, it's just kind of interesting, looking at places like Papua New Guinea, where they, I believe to this day, still practice cannibalism. It appears that was introduced to them by some Jews that, actually ended up mixing with that local population. And just maybe I could read something quickly, if you don't mind, about it.
Sure.
Different ethnic groups tend to suffer from different rates of hereditary diseases, with some being more common and less common. Hereditary disease, particularly hemophilia, was recognized early in Jewish history, even being described in the Talmud. However, the scientific study of hereditary disease in Jewish populations was initially hindered by scientific racism, which is based on racial supremacism. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. But there's a documentary, if people want to check it out, called Kuru, the Science and the something. Sorry, I can't see the rest of it. But I just think it's interesting that you see these rates of kuru pop up in these areas where, apparently Jews intermixed with the indigenous people there. The then tribe member of New Guinea explained that they learned to be cannibals by some ancestors, and the scientists said that kuru disease started 100 years ago. So why would a 1,000-year-old tribe suddenly start to be cannibals,
That is interesting. You know what I also found interesting was when I was reading Might is Right by this anonymous author. A lot of people have speculated who could have been. He went by Ragnar Redbeard. Might is Right is pretty good. A good critique of what's essentially plaguing the white man. This was written over 100 years ago, well over, and also Christianity and how it's completely failed us. It's for the weak, and there's a lot of good material in there, but they also promote. The guy promotes essentially cannibalism. If he's not outright promoting it, he's at least defending it at a certain level and saying that all the powerful people throughout history have, practice some form of cannibalism or another, and it's, just it's how you dominate your enemies and things like that. So
that's really Jewy.
It seemed like what it was trying to inject, the same subversive kind of elements into the opposition, trying to control the opposition before it even really sprouts up. Because, they knew that they would be taking down white people, the Europeans. This was stated around the same time that Might is Right came out with the Protocols of Zion and all the rest that was going on around that time. And so it seems that perhaps they're able to see, Christianity will fail them, that people will try to resist, and we'll put this might is right type of doctrine in them as the kind of response that we want, and as they do so many times. They're different controlled opposition groups, and in any event, I suggest actually people read it. Do take a look at it. It's an interesting read, and at least you'll be aware of this. But I don't suggest practicing cannibalism. No, that's what our enemies do. There's no reason for that. In fact, there are many reasons against it. What I did find interesting about this Might is Right book is on the last page, there's a poem. And I think it's of all copies. It's definitely the copy that I had. And it just kind of out of nowhere in the poem mentions Sandy Hook twice. Sandy Hook.
Really?
I don't know if he was referencing the town in Connecticut or if there's a different Sandy Hook that was being referenced there. But this was just so strange because I was reading this book maybe only a year after Sandy Hook happened, if that. So, I got to the end and I was thinking, what the hell? So, it's just strange how those things, how you see different little keywords here and there. I don't know if there's anything to that. I don't know. But it's what our enemies are doing. Yes, in some essence, it is might is right. They use that. But with Sandy Hook, it's not actually like a might is right type of procedure that they're going with here. It's more of that deceptive, stealthy type of thing.
Right.
It's not like we're going to take your guns because we've got more guns than you and you're our little slave bitch. No, it's we've got to save the children. That's why we have to take your guns.
Yeah, Gene Rosen his face was frozen in fear.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen that might is right kind of mentality infect a lot of white people and the pro-white, like, well, just bomb all the Arabs and sand niggers and blah, blah, blah.
You should say that in a Lana voice.
Yeah, just kill them all then. What's interesting? Chris H. just messaged me during the show. Lana was playing bad cop to make the Jew look good. That's absolutely what was going on.
Wow, this guy seems nice and reasonable. I think they're military.
I think they're trained on all this.
Well, people think we're just infighting here. Come on. Actually, I think most honest people are starting to get it, at least with that operation. But we had seen, I'm not going to mention who first pointed out to us, but somebody was just doing a little bit of digging. And this is even after we'd spent some time with Lana and Henrik at a cabin on one of our little gatherings. And they were very awkward and a lot of weird things about that. But in any event... And
our friend's hard drive went missing. That was weird.
Yeah.
Right after we had left them alone in the cabin. I'm just saying. Kind of weird.
Yeah. So, I think I even forget where I was going with that. But yeah.
The controlled opposition aspect of, and people just waking up to... because at first they roped people in. They were doing good interviews. They're having some great guests. And then all of a sudden, bam, reactionary Jew. And they're like, everybody who disagrees with us is a hysterical woman. That's what they tweeted out, basically.
It wasn't a bam with the reactionary Jew. I think when I stopped being able to really listen to them or respect them was when they were incessantly promoting Richard Spencer and the Halloween NPI conference, which was really the big one.
I just mean on their like YouTube, this is the most thumbs down and negative comments they've ever gotten. Like they really triggered people that were still on the fence with them. This one really seemed to
push
them over there.
What I was going to bring up was the thing that really pointed out to us that there's something going on here is we saw them listed on this pets site. It was for it was some house sitting,
military
pet sitting. No, it wasn't just military. It was
it was ran by two military people, but yes, they were in the military families
it
section
wasn't
where there's testimonials.
It wasn't pet sitting. It was shipping pets.
That's right.
Shipping pets for
transporting
people. Yeah, transporting
from
them.
Oregon to Sweden.
Yeah, I guess that would be what was going on then. So they handle military transfers as well as civilian, but somehow Lana and Henrik, their testimony ended up on the military page. And when we questioned Lana about this, she was able to get that changed right quick. Why are you guys in the military section? Maybe it was an honest mistake, but when you start to see all of the ways that they've been acting since.
I definitely thought that at the time. I thought, oh, okay, well, that's, it's understandable. It's kind of weird, but I don't think they work for the military. But now I'm like, okay, there's definitely something fishy going on here. Definitely. I mean, all of a sudden they start tiptoeing around the pro-white. They go full alt-right, and all they promote is, they toe the party line there, promote all the Pepes and all the fascies. And then you have the alt-light that had to basically kind of, a schism had to occur to then make the alt-right actually look like it's somehow, I don't know, like truthful or cares about the truth or having high standards or preserving our race, because they certainly aren't about that.
Yeah. How about you talk about somebody who has come onto the scene, and the first time I saw her was when she did that interview with Gavin McInnes, and I thought a lot what she was saying and kind of how she was dealing with him was nice to see, calling out the Jewish issue and how he's essentially a cuck and all of that.
I think it was all an act.
And we're talking about Emily Yukis here, and she tweeted out something before about she's going to be employed by Red Ice. I don't know what their relationship officially is. I haven't seen them actually collaborate besides an interview, so I don't know. But that's another person that's in this kind of Red Ice crew now. She says her two big heroes are Lana and Andrew Anglin, and she also worships Trump. Sings songs that were written for Jesus to Trump being our Lord and Savior, of course.
Pretty cringy. But she's clearly got I don't even want to say like talent, because a lot of her stuff really is really disturbing.
Skills. But
she clearly has skills, yes. So I keep thinking back to that disgusting cartoon torture porn that she made, in 2012. And I think, well, everybody can change, but then I looked into her YouTube and she was at Fur Fest last year. Well, no, 2015. So I guess, 2 years ago, technically.
There's video of her talking about doggy dick. She loves the doggy dick.
Yeah, she's all into bestiality. There's a lot of bestiality and rape and torture and blood. And, 2015, she's at Fur Fest humping random people, and all of her fans are children. Not all, but a lot of her fans are children. They're maybe teens. They're minors. She even said on one of her recent interviews, all you little kiddos aren't even old enough to vote. And I'm thinking, kiddos, what? Your fans are children? They're watching this cartoon torture porn?
Yeah,
I'm just so creeped out. And like I said, everybody can change, but this person has a demented mind. I am very, very freaked out by her.
This cartoon torture porn you're referencing, I couldn't watch much of it, but I did flip through it. It's the most disgusting, disturbing thing I've probably ever seen.
I agree.
It's cartoons. Nobody actually died. No animals actually died or were raped during this. So it's
There's
legal.
Nothing wrong with it.
All right, we'll talk about this much more. Welcome back here. This is Kyle Hunt filling in for Nick, who I hope is all right. I'm guessing either his internet or his power went out 10 seconds before he was supposed to be on the air. He was all on connected. And then right before we went to air, he's gone. So hope he's all right. Yeah, go ahead.
Kyle, I think it might just be Rahm Emanuel and the federal government stepping in to help with the climate in Chicago. Because it's really, they're just trying to help.
Yeah, well, there's been a climate change problem in Chicago. The climate.
Well, no, isn't it what he said? To help with the climate,
Yeah.
not the actual weather, but the racial climate.
Yes, I know.
Wasn't that the terminology that he used?
Yes, I think it's funny. I think that's the terminology.
Sorry.
Dealing with this climate change issue. The climate in America has become a problem. Well, it really has, and I think the chemtrails have a whole lot to do with it.
No. Those are contrails. That's water vapor.
That could have a whole big effect on the racial climate, just the general mood of the populace. I know I'm pissed off when I see chemtrails out there. I can't enjoy myself. And it could go beyond just me being pissed off that the skies are being polluted and that I'm not getting enough sunshine as I should. Actually, the sun down here is really, really hot right now. But the point is that who knows what's in these? This could be affecting people's behavior in ways that we don't even know. And Prince was talking about this when he would see this in his youth before chemtrails became so common all over. Once in a while, these planes would come by and spray things. And I'm talking about the artist who was formerly known as Prince, who is now dead. Not Prince Harry or anything like that. But yeah, Prince said that people would just start acting all crazy once they'd spray this over people. And Merle Haggard had brought up chemtrails as well and died right around the same time that Prince died as well. He was a good singer. He's the one who sang "I'm a White Boy" country singer. Not exactly country. I don't even know how to describe it. Maybe he's country. I'm not a music buff, but let's get back to this kind of so-called artist, Emily Eucas here, because I can't call what she does art. It's not art. She has skills. You want to say she's talented in that she can animate well, but what she's choosing to animate and how is so very, very disturbing. Now, people accuse you of infighting all of the time for pointing certain things out. They accuse all of us for infighting, for giving them purity tests and things like that. But let's just show what a double standard there is, where because you had pictures when you were living in New York and weren't racially aware at all, because you had pictures with black people you worked with, and this means that you were a mudshark race trader, absolute, devil. You were the worst thing ever. And also because you looked into a theory that people wouldn't actually debate you on. There was a little debate, with the flat Earth debate that was done, but only an autistic person showed up to debate you. Actually, eventually it was two. But it started out as two. One dropped off because he was just he couldn't even form any sentence, essentially.
No.
So the point is that they wouldn't actually debate you on these points, but they'll just essentially smear you into eternity as being just the worst thing ever, because really it's because they don't like you. But then they say that you are infighting for pointing out very legitimate concerns with various figures, including this Emily Eucas.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's pretty funny that I'm called like mentally ill all the time, but this person is considered an artist. That's just the alt-right for you. But to me,
sexy dog,
her...
Huh? Fuck yeah!
Oh.
He's a sexy dog. You fuck him, huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I love that Alfie out. I love that good dog dick.
That's Emily Eucas. Have you ever said anything like that?
No, I've never. Okay, Kyle, like even in my worst degenerate stages, like I did drugs. That was pretty much my worst thing. And, like I these things never entered my mind, even when I was on like, acid and ecstasy at the same time, like these things never entered my mind. To hear that come out of her mouth is like really disturbing. To me, she is screaming that she has been abused, that she was part of some weird, cult or something as a child. She's been sexually abused. She's witnessed like a lot of murder or something and bestiality. And to me, it's the mind of a Jew, but it's hard to tell these days if someone is just infected with a Jew mind virus and they've been traumatized, or if they're an actual Jew. But I know Jews love to pick their fake Greek last names like Yiannopoulos and, Eucas. I don't know.
Alephantis?
Alafontes, yeah.
Well, that isn't...
The other one that apparently, supposedly raped that girl, and I believe that he did. The Daily Stormer guy, he had a Greek last name as well. I'm not going to say it though, because I'll probably end up dead. But yeah, I just think that it's just that mind, it really, really troubles me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not encouraging anybody to actually go see what's contained within this. Just suffice it to say, think of Eli Roth and his torture porn, and then throw in Acid meets Roger Rabbit meets the worst horror. Yeah, meets Ren and Stimpy meets the worst horrors of hell meets Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons. This is so really disturbing. It's not just Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead. I don't even want.
Okay.
I don't want to talk about it.
I was just gonna say, and how perfect that this girl is all over the media. Pistachio girl, right? She's nuts. She sells nuts, and she's nuts. And how perfect is that? There's some Jew rubbing his hands somewhere, like, oh, she's perfect. Because if anybody just Googled her name, be like, who's this Nazi girl? Okay, say they Googled me, they'd be like, okay, well. Yeah, she thinks some kind of weird out there things, but it's like, it's like fairy tale stuff. It's not going to hurt anybody. And if, everybody gets so triggered about me talking about the silicon trees that could have once existed and the mesas being tree stumps, this is just fairy tale thinking. This doesn't hurt anybody. This is what children do. And there's nothing wrong with a child imagining what if, but in her work, if you want to call it that, if a child were to see that, they would be scarred for life.
I think adults who would be, if an adult watched the whole thing, they'd probably be scarred in some way. It would be seared into their consciousness. They'd probably never be able to forget it.
I agree. I can't forget it.
Really
I haven't
bad.
been able to stop thinking about it.
It's really awful. And just thinking about the kind of mind that would produce this, that's a very disturbed mind. Very disturbed. And apparently there's a market or something for it.
And children, minors, are buying it. They are fans of hers. She said on the interview they're not old enough to vote, so that means they're under 18. And she had a band where she actually called herself Emily Pucus, which I think is just so great because that's what I think of when I see her or see her cartoons. It's just like vomit inducing. It's just so sick. And she was with Lloyd Kaufman at the trauma dance. Is that what it's called? That trauma.
Yeah. They did Toxic Avenger. They've done these gory, sexual kind of movies that have been cult classics for so long. To think about that word as well, cult classic. Yeah, there's the pop culture cult, but then we get with some of these films, Lucifer Rising and Scorpio Rising by Kenneth Anger, that's Satanist, and films like supposedly a cult B movie, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and some of these other ones. It's especially the trauma ones, very disturbing. It really does factor in there with occult and cult activities.
Yes, and interesting, this Trauma Film Festival is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, hipster haven, also Jew haven, and you have Roberta's Pizza right there. I believe it's in Williamsburg, or it might be, one of the little villages right next to there, because the hipsters kind of spread out a little bit outside of Williamsburg. And Roberta's has a lot of weird imagery and stuff going on, some Pizzagate, for lack of a better term, related stuff, some pizza coded language and imagery being used, some weird, torturous, ugly cartoons too, just like Emily Eucas draws, and I just think that's interesting. I bet they all went over for a slice after the film festival.
There's really something here. They've used cartoons to basically push the boundaries, doing things that they wouldn't be able to do with real humans. And I mentioned Itchy and Scratchy through The Simpsons. The Simpsons itself was never very gory, but then they'd inject this little segments with Itchy and Scratchy where these animals are slicing each other up, and it's very gory. And
Yeah.
then what you see happening is a lot of these children now are being introduced to hyper violence, ultra violence, just disgusting cartoons where they're doing awful things to each other and it's supposed to be funny. So you have these children, a lot of whom are autistic as well, brain damaged, vaccine damaged, coming into the world, and they're watching these disgusting cartoons on their iPhones. It is MK Ultra. What's a step up from MK Ultra? MK Mega, it's been called MK World. That's what they're going for, and cartoons have been one of those ways to really. Emily Mucus is making snuff films with cartoon characters. Just think about this. Also, there's the snuff puppets, which you mentioned as well. It's just they're able to get away with a lot more with this kind of cartoonish free speech.
I don't know if you noticed, but you called her Emily Mucus, and I think that's hilarious. That's perfect.
Yeah, there you go, Emily Mucus.
Emily Mucus, yes, but you're absolutely right. They've been doing that with cartoons, and these sick pedophiles, pederast child rapists, they've been drawing penises and sexual stuff into these children's cartoons forever. And I think it's really interesting and really telling that the alt-right is represented by a cartoon frog. And, like a gang of cartoon characters, Moon Man, now Alfred Alfer, the dog that rapes everybody and poops in everybody's mouth. And then we have Sperto Sparte, the obese bear.
I miss Sperto. I think that Pepe was brought to ascendancy because Sperto was just too accurate. It's too hard to use Sperto for nefarious means because he was not a pro. He was a pro-American bear, but in an ironic way. He wasn't a pro-presidential Pepe. You know what I mean? Right. He wasn't representing the freaking White House. Come on, guys. Even if you think it was something cool and fun to begin with, now it is the establishment. It is at the helm of the most powerful country on the earth, or so we're told. And that's
they love. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm done.
Okay, they love to make fun of the SJWs and their little safe spaces. You know how they had that meetup and they had like a ball pit and they were all sitting there playing like children. They think that they're so much better when they're sitting there making cartoons all night. I'm all for art and drawing. I'm not discrediting that, but you know what I mean? Making Donald Trump cartoons and, making this Pepe and that Pepe. It's like, you guys you're obsessed with a cartoon frog and you worship it.
Yeah.
And they say it's a joke, but they have it all over the place.
I'd say that just altering Ben Garrison cartoons would be far more effective because political cartoons can be very powerful. This is something very basic, very primal, just drawing stick figures even, having them say things with word bubbles, right? This is very simple. It's accessible to people. The common person, can have a little bit of artistic ability and get a message across in a very limited space and maybe get somebody to chuckle or to even get a little bit angry about something. So political cartoons should never be poo-pooed. But look at what Pepe is. It's this kind of smug self-glorification, no real information imparted. It's this cult figure. It's not something that's actually, spreading any kind of awareness or enlightenment. No, it's just spreading chaos.
Right.
And let's get back to Alfred, because even just the latest cartoon that Emily did, The Ascent of Alfred, which just was released very recently, and it's still, I think, the pinned tweet on her timeline on Twitter, this itself is very disturbing. She might say it's ironic that it's, it's trying to point out the societal message of this and that. It's degenerate. That's the best way to describe it. It is ultimately degenerate, and it would be placed in a degenerate art exhibit if the Third Reich or my Reich or any legitimate Reich were to come to power. It'd be thrown in there with the degenerate art.
Yeah, it definitely would. I was trying to, think about it. I'm like, okay, well, if it's a commentary, I guess I did that when I did that like a degenerate video, but I was already taking things that existed out there. But I think, yeah, she definitely, I haven't even really watched the whole thing through because it just doesn't really sit with my mind, if that makes sense. It's like, I just don't want to go there.
It takes you in a very, very dark place.
Weird place. Yeah. I feel like I'm on some kind of like pharmaceuticals. Like it's a very weird place. Maybe I've been there before and that's why I don't want to go back, because it's a very like just strange cartoon land. I've actually, and I've talked to people too that have had weird experiences on psychedelics and like actually experiencing cartoon land. So this is very much embedded in our psyche.
Well, they could have even introduced Cartoon Land through their cartoons into our psyche. I mean, that's what I mean. Yeah, this might not be something that existed, but since we grew up with them, you just think of the message of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you have this kind of merging of the cartoon world with the real world, and think about what's going on with Pokemon Go and all this other enhanced reality, right? What are we seeing take place here?
Well, and also remember we were looking into how the Pokemon Go was apparently bringing children to like predators' doorsteps, or, it was like bringing them to sex offenders' houses. I remember reading something about that.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised. No, somebody just hacked that, right? That was just a hack.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it was fake news. Like, who knows what's even going on anymore? It's such a in this cartoon world, we don't know what the hell's real. That's one of the big things we should realize is that their cartoons are sometimes more lifelike than real life. I'm telling you, the sharper image, with the CGI things that they put out there, they look more real than real sometimes.
Yeah, it's creepy. Well, think about also just the cartoons for adults now that they have airing on TV. Family Guy, The Simpsons. Those are two shows that have been very prophetic. Well, I guess a better term would be predictive programming. It's not like they got a sign from God. Like they're in on it.
Right.
So both of those shows, a lot of obviously social engineering going on in those shows, but also predictive programming, a lot of 9/11, Family Guy predicted the Boston Marathon, Hoax, a lot of other things. So, yeah, cartoons are being used to program our minds. I mean, not all of them, of course, it's not like cartoons are evil, but it's who's using them and who's drawing them and who's putting subliminal messages into them. I mean, they draw, like I was saying before, they draw penises into Disney characters all the time. It's like you don't see it until they highlight it, and then you're like, that's a penis. On that Mickey Mouse.
Oh, what's that little pig? Obvious. What's that pig that I think it looks like a stubby penis? Peppa.
Peppa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a penis and balls.
Yeah, it is. You can see that. You can see this a lot. I mean, do little image searches on this. So-called artists love to do this and all their marketing and everything. And it just goes to show how even pictures that will have this, it's so easy to alter them. So we're given this altered reality with the photographs that we're given in the magazines on the supermarket shelves, right, as you're checking out. These people have been photoshopped. That's not what they look like. All right, we have somebody joining the call here. And this looks to be David. David, welcome.
Good evening, Kyle. Good evening, Sinead. Great topics you're both hitting on tonight. I was just reminded by all this talk of cartoons about how far back the brainwashing goes, such as you were talking about earlier about violence. And we can probably remember growing up or relatives of ours in the Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes era, whenever, and of course you can even tie in the Three Stooges with that. We can now see that it was nothing but trauma-based mind control run by the United States military. And I say that because my grandfather hurt himself because he fell off the porch as a young boy because of what he's seen on the coyote and the woodpecker.
Wow.
The parts where they go off a cliff, and it takes him a second to realize that I'm in the middle of the air, and he begins to fall, and so on and so forth. I had an uncle with he tried to jump off the couch imitating Superman.
Yep.
So I mean, we grow up with this, and it sort of stays with us, and it contributes to a lot of, a lot of what we deal with growing up.
A lot of children actually die because they think they're Superman or things like that. It's a great point you're bringing up here. And then we have the adolescents and the grown children. And when I was growing up and a teenager, I think it was when Jackass came out. And think about how many people emulated Jackass and just embraced idiocy as a virtue.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then even you had, wasn't it CKY was Bam Margera's thing kind of before Jackass?
Yeah.
They had some really degenerate stuff on there. I remember watching that.
Then they had the spin-offs too, Wild Boys and a bunch of other degenerate crap. And it's just,
we really are moving into idiocracy. It reminds me of remember they had that fictional reality show called Ow, My Balls. Yeah, that really is living today more than ever.
Yeah, I'd say we're there. We've been in idiocracy for a while.
You know what's
really
interesting?
bad.
That's pretty much true.
I don't know if either of you have seen this, but Camacho, there's an ad he does basically sending a message from the future. You know, President Camacho, the black guy with the long hair, is a professional wrestler and president and porn star, I think. I think Matt Judge, who did it, who also did Beavis and Butthead. So basically part of this whole idiocracy and training the youth through stupid Beavis and Butthead cartoons. He did this movie, Idiocracy, which we're saying is pretty poignant. Then he had Camacho come back a few years ago. I don't know when it was actually put up. People can look this up. And had him give this message, and it's to white people from the future. And the black President Camacho is basically begging white people to get their act together, because in the future we're not going to have a whole lot of you, and things are really bad. We want you back, things like that. It's really interesting to see that is kind of tied in there with Idiocracy. Just that's part of the narrative that white people in the future.
I remember when that came out.
And then the main character, in the beginning, he's part of some military experiment to begin with. So I mean, they're already telling you right there that what is a Hollywood movie anyway? Something more than just a military and intelligence
right.
training.
Social engineering, right?
Or trauma. I mean, because with Dave McGowan's research, we both know that Lookout Mountain had one of the best film studios that rivaled Hollywood. So I mean, that's just my evidence right there, and it should be evidence for anybody that Hollywood and the military are just one and the same.
I wanted to bring this up because we are in Circus Maximus, and I heard Josh Reeves do a really good show with Nick on Circus Maximus, but I want to just reiterate this point for people in case it just hasn't been hammered home yet. Although the U.S. government essentially does control Hollywood, rather than the other way around, that would be pretty stupid if the people out in Hollywood, the Jews who make the movies, were in control of the people with all of the armaments, right? That doesn't really make sense. So yes, of course the U.S. government controls the Jews in Hollywood, as Josh Reeves pointed out. But what I don't think he made clear enough was that the U.S. government is also controlled by Jews. So it's not some wasp in the U.S. government, who should take the blame for all of the filth that's coming out of Hollywood. It is the Jewish media establishment, which is right there in lockstep with the Jewish occupied government.
Yep.
Well, that's right. The military, that's just the Zog's mercenary forces that just go terrassing all around the world, and the rule of law just does not apply to them because it's run by the same ones that are running Hollywood.
Hey, just before we go to the break here, David, do you know about heavy metal? I'm guessing Sinead does not. No, I'm not talking about what's released in the chemtrails. I'm talking about, I think it was the 1980s, rock cartoon for adults, which was also sexual. You ever see that one?
I never have.
Yeah, heavy metal. I'm sure some of the older people out there will know this one. I probably even saw it on cable TV late at night when I used to stay up as a young one in a censored version. Very, very strange cartoon. It's a movie, but just think about all of the very strange stuff we've seen in cartoons, all these trippy worlds, even going back to Alice in Wonderland. This does seem to be part of a mind control, psychedelic type of bad trip that they're bringing us on here. Very, very interesting topic. I'm glad we're covering it. I didn't think we'd get into this. I didn't even think we'd be on the air. Anyway, welcome back. This is the last half hour of Circus Maximus, and I really hope that Nick is doing all right here. I hope... the timing of that was just incredible. I don't know what's going on, so I'll text him after the show. But in any event, tonight we're talking about the cartoon reality, which is being foisted upon us, that we're forced to partake in. It's all synthetic. It's all controlled. It's all scripted. Now, not all of reality. No, there's still a natural, organic, dare I say, magical component. But it's been shrinking by the day, it seems. And that's the topic, and hopefully if anybody has anything to add, they can call in 747-999-6407. Again, I'll say that a little bit slower since it's a new number, 747-999-6407. Would Sinead, you like to add anything else about this cartoon reality, whether it's with the staged events or with actual cartoons themselves, given your experiences in this world?
I don't know. I think that's pretty much it for the cartoon world. I don't really like it. I mean, I respect some of the artistry that goes into like a good animation or, claymation and those kinds of things. And it can be used, and this is the thing. Videos and entertainment for children or, a TV show, it's not necessarily bad. It's just we have to make sure that we know who's creating it, and make sure they're not Jews, make sure they're our folk, and they have the same values in mind that we want for our society. And these things can be a beautiful medium to uplift. But when people are getting sawed in half with a chainsaw and there's fecal matter everywhere, that really doesn't uplift my soul. Call me crazy.
Yeah. I just think about all of the skills that can be used towards something great, towards something beautiful. Beauty is what we need. That is what will save us, beauty. David, anything you'd like to add about the cartoon world?
Well, I'm just remembering back as well. I should also state first of all that back in both World Wars, particularly the Second World War, cartoons were used in U.S. military training films. They, I believe they had what's his name, the little cartoon Snafu, and he appeared in. It was almost like watching an army training program with him on there, and then of course they also had Kilroy was here. So I mean, like I said, the military they've even used cartoons, as if not just for propaganda, but for a lot of training purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share something really quick before we change the topic?
Please. Yeah.
You guys have seen Five-ish, right? That little $5 bill that the Jews dance with?
Yes.
Five-ish?
Yeah.
Should queue up some Five-ish. I'm just kidding. If you haven't seen Five-ish, you should check it out. That's like the Jewish mascot. It's a $5 bill.
Yes, they do seem to be masters of this cartoon world that we're living in. And that's where they brought our art, was from beautiful paintings and high theater and things like that, and concerts, to what we see today. And you look at the art that I've featured on Renegade Tribune, it's just amazing. It's incredible. And a lot of the paintings really do inspire awe in the people who witness them. And that's what art is supposed to be about. And think about what we could do with the technology we have today if we were to have that same kind of spirit infused in what we're doing.
Absolutely, yes. There needs to be more beauty and more elegance and more mystery, but also not a shaming or covering up of the naked body in a way that it's somehow sinful, but I think the National Socialists had a really great balance of, upholding the naked body as, a beautiful ideal, man and woman, and this is what we aspire to be, this greatness and this beauty that is the human form. It wasn't pornographic, the people were standing upright, they were confident, and it was not this graphic, demeaning stuff that we see today when we see nudity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I look at some of the crap art that they had back then, and it's the same kind of crap art that we have now. I mean, obviously, it's gotten a lot worse. We've been force-fed so much Jewish crap in the meantime since those evil Nazis lost that we're just so desensitized to it that it doesn't even register anymore. It's just everywhere. It permeates our culture. Just all of this awful art, these stupid sculptures, twisted metal all over the place. It's awful. It's soul destroying, honestly.
Do you remember those pillows that we found in the middle of the park, and a bunch of people just gathered around with us, and we all scratched our chins and thought, what?
It was like a sculpture of pillows. It was so stupid.
Yeah, and we see this everywhere. 3 white pillows.
You see this everywhere, all this stupid art. And still some statues and nice art and architecture remain, but they're getting replaced all the time. Replaced or defaced, at least.
Or taken down, yeah.
Yeah. So let's see where else we should go here. Of course, we don't have any other callers to help guide us in that direction, so we'll throw it over to David. David, anything else that you'd like to add about, let's say, the event that took place today, or just anything else that you've been paying attention to that you think is important?
I usually leave current events up to Chris, because I just can't play the mainstream news in my house all day, because I get I don't know, with what I know now, it just, you could just say it would trigger me, seeing that the lies they put forth towards people, and just, knowing deep down that people actually believe this, and that's the tragic part about it for me. But what I would like to say is, very briefly, is what Sinead was bringing up about art, and about how the naked body used to, in National Socialist Germany, actually, meant something beautiful. And of course, now it all comes together with, the whole story of Adam and Eve, how when they ate the forbidden fruit, they were ashamed because all of a sudden we're meant to believe that nakedness was something sinful. Now, you got to understand that in National Socialist Germany, kids, when grown up from being subjects of trauma-based mind control and a lot of filth we have today. So they were able to grow up with that mindset and be able to know that, the so-called naked body is something beautiful and it's in art. But see, once you take away that innocence, like they've done with most people that live here with the way we live our lives, I mean, it just, like I said, it just won't work when the children grow up here. Different times and different things people were subjected to.
Yeah, we'll need a whole deprogramming unit. We'll need to have centers all over the country, all over the world, to help people with their transition from this awful trauma-based or trauma-based mind control, and bringing them something healthier, something much better. We have another caller here. Caller, who's this?
Not sure, are you talking to me?
Yes, I am.
Brad, yeah, say McQueen here calling from California. How are things going there?
Going all right, thanks. Anything you'd like to add about the topics
not
tonight?
on that particular subject. I was thinking helping do a show here. I maybe fill 5 or 10 minutes with a little California report, and maybe you'd be interested in hearing how things are out here.
Let's try to keep it on the lower side of 5 here.
Yeah. All right. So I'll just blather for a couple of minutes. Interrupt me anytime you want to. So I'm working in the Silicon Valley, been out here for a number of years working, and all of my time at these jobs where they get increasingly more and more ethnically diverse, or whatever complicated phrase you want to use to describe it, I've met one dude in all of these years who had similar values to mine. It was shocking. He took me out on the patio of this place, started talking about small talk, and then he started introducing socialism. Is it bad, or what about national socialism? It was like, holy shit, I found a dude who thinks like I think. Interesting part was, grew up in like Mississippi. What had turned his mind around was he met a whole lot of the black folks down there and nearly beat one to death. So that's what he was telling me about, how different it was. But it's just shocking to see the number of people here, my white people, who are essentially freaking crazy. It is so difficult to live out here surrounded by the minorities when my fellow white people have essentially lost their minds. It's really hard to get along with them. I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Can't talk sense to them.
I know what you're saying. I actually used to live and work out there for a little while myself, and it's no good. What's going on in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, no good. And the thing is, I'm not against technology. I'm not a Luddite. It's just the way that these technologies have been used. Who's using them? It's no good, and they're completely in bed with the government. They are completely in bed with the government.
Yeah, the subject of technology is a different subject. Here's something that's totally bizarre that I have found. It's going to piss people off, certainly, but whatever. You guys can shout at me if you want to. The immigrants are way similar, more similarly minded to me than my fellow white people are. It drives me frickin' crazy. People who are capitalists, it's not my fellow white people. What the hell, man? How do I get along in this business except dial into Renegade and listen to these faraway voices? Freaking nuts, man.
I understand you. I've seen that too, where some of the people who are outside of our race will look in and say, "What the hell is going on with you people? What's wrong with you? Why are you letting yourselves be beat up like this? Why aren't you fighting back? What's wrong?" Or that they're openly National Socialists themselves. You see the non-white world where people are not afraid to be out there with their beliefs and dressing up in the full regalia as well. All over Asia, in India, you've got all these different examples. Mexico, South America, it's pretty huge down there. I do have another caller here, but anything else you'd like to add in quickly here before we get back to?
I just realized as I was blathering, I was calling in for therapy. This is lame. You go ahead and do a kick-ass show. I'm listening here. I'm going to drop off and listen on the radio. All
right, great. It was good talking to you, and feel free to call in again in the future.
All right.
Take care. Bye. All right. David or Sinead, anything you'd like to add about the experiences our caller there was going through, being kind of lost? Not lost. You know your direction, but, well, everyone else around you is lost.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's hard to even have conversations with people out in public. I can usually talk more with people that are, 40 and up because they're not as damaged. They got lucky, but it's very lonely. I think the way that I'm lucky, that I have some people around me that, at least will listen, like my parents. you, obviously, we agree on the same things. But I'd say the best way to cope with feeling lonely and walking the road of truth is to start just making media, and you'll meet people doing it and team up with different people and do things together. And even if you met someone of a different race at your work that, sees that we have a problem with, the Jews and Jewish control and how, they're basically trying to pit us all against each other. I think it would be good to go out and do some street activism together, because say you and a non-white person go down the street handing out flyers together or going and doing a public speech somewhere, people would get kind of confused by that. They're like, oh, I can't call it racist because they're together. And I don't know, it could be an interesting experiment. Make you feel less lonely being focused on something,
People have attempted that in the past, and I think that there is a significant segment of the aware black community out there who gets it. They see the Jewish hand. They understand what's happening to white people. They're not necessarily always coming to our defense, nor should they. Nor should they have to. So I just kind of let them do their thing. I'm not going to tolerate any of the anti-white attacks, nor am I going to just blame all black people for them. That's just... And I'm not going to fall into the Jewish trap of just going out there in the streets trying to fight against a bunch of thugs when they're the low-level street thugs. We should be going a little bit more high up than that.
Right. They don't actually have control over everything,
no,
except maybe like your local heroin supply. That's about it.
No,
and they're getting that from the Jew.
Tyrone actually runs the banks in that town as well.
Shit, Tyrone's credit union.
He's gangsta. Mafia.
Yeah.
David, anything you'd like to add about this subject of networking and, feeling a little bit isolated in the in the world?
Yeah, I'm surrounded by the enemy at work. I mean, I say that because it's around my building. The hotel I work in is nothing but either minorities or people of color. And yeah, it's it's pretty much an epidemic. New Orleans was a slave, one of the slave ports. So a lot of movement through there, and we're still feeling its effect till this day. And well, it's a short story, right fast. There's a bayou that they actually call the Irish Bayou, or no, sorry, the Irish Canal, dug by Irish immigrants, and it's sort of a monument or a monumental place because so many Irish died digging the canal from disease and starvation. And the official story is that the blacks were not used for the project because, and I quote, they said that the black lives were worth more than the Irish. So I mean that's just another part of our history that they just like to throw in the dustbin because that'll shatter the fabric of the current narrative that's being pushed about white privilege and everything else we deal with.
Yeah, well, we've got another caller here, so I'm going to bring this caller on the air. Hello, who's this?
Oh, greetings. This is Chris Dorsey.
Chris, welcome. Good to hear from you.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, hey, man, it's been a really mind-expanding show thus far. And when y'all were talking about the publicly funded arts, I just thought back to a picture I saw about a locally funded art project, which is a 17-foot tall metal ring, which frames the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond from the opposite side of the river. And this was, of course, given to us, given to a what's the guy's name? Mr. Wiener received $200,000 from the Richmond Public Art Commission. And so basically, obviously, we know the Richmond Federal Reserve Bank and all the other Fed banks are run by the Jews, and now they make these ugly, it looks like a picture frame framing the Federal Reserve Bank, and the taxpayers paid $200,000 for it. And I just wanted to, throw that out there. It's everywhere. It's happening in every city with this nonsense, and it looks so ugly too. And with this shooting, I really think that they are pulling out all the stops. There was kind of a 3-week barrage about getting Donald Trump's reaction to the alleged Russian hacking, and it was the apex, the climax was supposed to come today, but it never really came. What do y'all think about that? And also the CIA mind control and CIA allegedly forcing this guy, Esteban Santiago Ruiz, to watch CIA videos, and then FBI checks him into like a mental hospital. I mean, this stuff is just, it's impossible to believe. What are y'all's thoughts on that? I just have to hear it.
Well, how many times has their story changed, and how many times has it contradicted itself already? It's quite incredible. Could you elaborate for the audience a little bit more about him being forced to watch ISIS videos?
Yeah, I was watching the CBS Evening News tonight, and they started reporting that this guy, and they're calling him Esteban Santiago, but I also heard him called Esteban Santiago Ruiz. But in any event, he was has been in the military and deployed in Iraq. I think at least Iraq, but I think Iraq and Afghanistan. Been in the military since 2010 and was an active member of the Alaska National Guard. And he went into the FBI field office in Alaska. I'm not sure which town, whether there's more than one Alaska field office or not. But in any event, the way they described it on the evening news, and I've since chatted with others and seen the verification in writing, on news accounts, that he went into the FBI field office in Alaska, said that he was under CIA mind control. They were forcing him to watch ISIS videos, and the response of these FBI agents allegedly was to check him into a mental hospital, some sort of, I don't even know what you would call them, a sanitarium, for lack of a better term, a mind control place, obviously, we know. But and that they knew all of this, they knew his ISIS connections, but yet he gets his guns. He keeps his guns. They go, don't worry about it. Keep your guns. Stay in the military, even though you're telling us that the CIA is mind controlling you and forcing you to watch ISIS propaganda, and that also he checked his gun properly, allegedly, but yet it would have had to have been unloaded in the process. Like a bunch of people would have had to do something wrong in order for this guy to have a loaded gun. And then there's contradicting accounts on whether he was flying into Fort Lauderdale, leaving Fort Lauderdale, and now there's reports saying that he was just in the airport. So again, nothing but contradictions.
And Air Canada says they have no record of him. So this story just doesn't add up. It's a cartoon kind of reality that we're given. It doesn't need to make sense. When you were talking there about CIA mind control, I'm thinking about the movie Conspiracy Theory with Mel Gibson and the mind control scene where he sees this big bad wolf cartoon. I think that's one of the images that's shown throughout. And something about cartoons and CIA mind control. Oh, they go hand in hand. I wonder what kind of cartoons they've commissioned over the years. Probably some really disturbing ones.
Kyle, when you say like the cartoon world, remember the Looney Tunes episodes where it would be an episode where Daffy Duck is being messed with, and the guy keeps erasing whatever's going on and putting Daffy Duck into all these different situations. And I think there might have been one with Bugs Bunny as well. But it's like whatever situation, Daffy Duck gets adjusted to, then the guy just erases it and draws in another reality or scenario. And of course, yeah, the cartoons, they play a huge part in this. You know, not just the predictive programming. It's just that mentality. It's something that can be changed. And again, they're pushing forward this narrative over and over again. Hey, it's impossible for the public to know anything that's going on. And I also thought that it was interesting, even if this is a fake story, that they're getting a backstory because the first thing I thought when they started putting out the terminology Alaska and mind control, I immediately started thinking HARP. And the United States patents that are applicable to HARP and HARP-like technologies, which, they tell us that they shut down the HARP operation in Alaska, but when did they do it? Did they completely shut it down? Did they replace it with something better up there? In any event, that's what I thought. Alaska, mind control, HARP.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you so much for calling in here at the end. We have pretty much run out of time here, so I'm going to go back around to everybody else. Any quick final thoughts for the audience here?
No, just thanks a lot. Great show, as always.
All right, thank you very much. Sinead, over to you. Anything that you'd like to say here at the end? Sinead probably has to unmute.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm glad that Chris brought up the Alaska connection. I just think it's really interesting that as soon as this happens, they release 5 facts that you need to know about the blah 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 shooter, and they're saying that he had a girlfriend in Alaska, and he was honorably discharged from the military, and he was actually being investigated for child porn. They know all of this, within moments of this shooter being detained, apparently. So lots of mind tricks going on, and thanks for having me on tonight.
Well, it was Nick who invited you on.
Yeah.
And
Thank you, Nick. I hope you're okay.
Yeah. I wasn't even supposed to be here, but I hope you all didn't mind me not being prepared for a show here. I think it actually worked out pretty well. David, anything that you'd like to add before we close out here?
No, nothing I can think of off the top of my head. We pretty much covered some really good subjects. Thanks for having me, and I'll let one of you close with something.
All right. David, good hearing from you as well, doing some great shows with Chris. Very pleased with what's going on in the network over here, the wild cards we've had as well, and also what's going on over at the Tribune. Please do check out our sister site, renegadetribune.com. And I'm not sure who will be hosting the roundtable tomorrow night, but I'm guessing that Nick, if everything's all right, will be good to go for that. He might have something scheduled, but hopefully he's doing all right, and I'll let you know as soon as I know something. Thanks so much for listening to the show here tonight. I hope you found it informative. As always, here on Circus Maximus.
This is the end.